Welcome to the ORC Orators Podcast, where I speak with fellow Toastmasters about their Toastmasters experience so that you can have a better Toastmasters experience. I'm your host, Mary Mazurek. Today I'm here with ORC Orators Toastmaster Cate Carney. Welcome, Cate. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for asking me. I'm excited.
Today I would like to speak with you about the importance of vocal variety. You gave a really engaging talk at Rotary Learning Week, but also at our Speechcraft offering. And I would like to talk with you more about the importance of vocal variety, but let's get to know you a little better. Cate, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I can. Oh, what a dreaded question. I'm never good at this. My name is Cate Carney. I am from Virginia originally, but I currently live in Chicago. I work for Rotary International, which is how obviously I found out about our ORC Toastmasters Club. A few things about me might be I have a degree in musical theater with minors in vocal performance and communication studies. I work in a team that does a lot of training of others, which is something I enjoy. And my big news of the past few months is that I got a cat, and she is very sweet, a little black cat. Her name is Cosmo. But for anybody who likes old Disney films, her real name is Cosmic Creepers, and which came from which is a name, I know, but it came from the old Disney movie Bedknobs and Broomsticks with Angela Lansbury. She plays a witch, and her cat in the movie is named Cosmic Creepers. And when I was a kid, I thought that was a great name for a cat. So when I ended up falling in love with this black cat that I met at the shelter, I knew that was the perfect name. But I don't want her to get embarrassed, so I just call her Cosmo. So
That's
she
super
doesn't.
cute. I love pet names that have like larger significances. I have a
Me
dog
too.
myself. His name
Hmm.
is Wells. The shelter actually named him one tail at a time.
Hmm.
He was part of a litter, and they named every pup in the litter after Chicago street signs. And I thought that was the coolest thing. So I kept the name.
I love it. No, that is really great.
Yeah,
That's really sweet.
we'll have to have another conversation about animals later, but
We
yeah,
definitely will.
definitely. So today we're going to talk about Toastmasters and vocal variety.
Yes.
So what besides just the physical location brought you to Toastmasters?
Well, as someone who has a degree in theater but works an office job, I think a lot of people discover throughout their lives that regardless of what degree you get, there are ways that it applies to the work that you end up doing. But I had found that an enjoyment of being on stage and not minding being the center of attention was helpful when it came to training adults and working with other teams. There were still areas within that part of public speaking, right? Where it wasn't a character, but it was me that I found myself stumbling over. And a coworker who was a big fan of the Toastmasters Club at Rotary said this would be the perfect place for you. And I'd never heard of Toastmasters. And so I went in pretty much completely blind, having no idea what to expect. And I had realized pretty quickly this would be a perfect place that I could practice speaking as me in a lot
Mhm.
of different ways, and that would be beneficial to my job. And I think that was 2018. So, and I'm still here. So it's been a while. Yeah.
That's really cool. I would think you would probably be able, if it was a song and dance number for the training, I think you would be a natural at that. But
But yeah, a little more comfortable with that, oddly. But yeah, it's true. It's true. It's weird when you are playing somebody else, which is sometimes a trick for giving speeches is to not get nervous, is to pretend like you're somebody else. But there is a difference, and I found that Toastmasters really helped me continue to bridge that gap and continue learning skills that I could use in my day-to-day job.
That's great. I identify with that because I am a university professor as
Hmm.
well. And when I'm speaking in front of my students, I am in the role of university professor, which
Hmm.
is easier for me to deliver lectures than Mary delivering the lecture, if that
Hmm.
makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. Actually, from a theater background, that's one of the first things that we talk about is how we all play roles in life, whether or not you're actually thinking of it from a perspective of acting. We all have our work persona and our home persona and who we are with friends or family. And so, yeah, Professor Mary makes perfect sense.
Okay. Well, hopefully I have some vocal variety and don't sound like Ferris Bueller's teacher. That I just dated myself there. But anyway, vocal variety is important.
It is.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it can help us when we're preparing our speeches?
Of course. So, first off, we'll talk about what it is, right? So, when we are trying to identify what is vocal variety in the world of giving a speech, we mean, raising your voice higher, speaking louder, bringing your voice softer, speaking lower. It could be the pace of your voice. I say something very slowly to get you to, listen to each word, or picking up the pace, right? So, it might kind of just sound exactly like what it is. But what I think is the most interesting about vocal variety is it's something really that we all use every day. And it's an extremely important skill for giving a speech, for making that speech engaging and something that the audience remembers and listens to. But really, the only plot time we call it vocal variety is when we're talking about giving a speech. Fact is, we all use vocal variety all the time. We just never have given it a name in our day-to-day lives. So I wanted to emphasize that because I think it's an important, I'd say it's an important skill to have in your toolbox, but it is actually something you're probably a lot more familiar with and comfortable with than you realize.
Yeah, that's interesting. So just calling attention to it makes it more tangible and actionable, don't you
Hmm.
think?
Yes, exactly. And also I think when you're giving a speech, as we all, learn, and what brings so many people to Toastmasters, right, is that giving a speech can feel extremely different to your mind and your nervous system and everything else than just talking to friends. Even if you're in a work situation, but you're in a meeting room with just a few colleagues, you can be totally fine there. And then when someone says, all right, now get up on a stage behind a podium or give this, it can feel like a totally different experience. And so that is why I think, we want to pinpoint all these elements of what make a speech a good speech. And vocal variety, I think, is it's nice because really it's something that is not brand new to anybody. Other things can feel brand new, but this, it really isn't.
So
Yeah,
true. And how do you think vocal variety can impact your message when you're giving a speech?
that is a really good question. I think that vocal variety is one of the most important tools that the impact of your speech can really depend on vocal variety. Is it memorable or is it a droning tone in the background of the other thoughts that come to the surface when you're not engaged? And vocal variety is right up there at the top as one of the most important ways to make your speech have an impact or not have an impact.
Excellent. So, for those who might not be as familiar with thinking about using this tool of vocal variety, could you give us
Mhm.
an example?
Of course. If we are thinking, I'd like to give sort of two examples. So if we're talking trying to recognize how you use vocal variety in your everyday life as a way to then help you recognize your own speech patterns and how you can bring that into your speech. Imagine telling a story to your best friend and you're trying to emphasize how bad something was, right? I was in the car and there was a man, okay? He was walking along the side of the road. I saw him in my peripheral vision. And then all of a sudden, he was in front of my car. I didn't even see him. It's like he leapt into the road and I had to hit my brakes and I barely missed him. There was a lot of vocal variety in that.
There was.
Okay.
I was just very engaged with your story.
Thank you. I was coming up with it on the spot. But I think that we can all recognize if you were telling that story, that's probably how you'd say it, right? You'd go, here he was. There's a pause for emphasis. My voice is raised. I'm kind of speaking faster. And then when I say he jumped in front of the car, naturally you pause. You go, he was on the road, and then pause. He was in front of the car. And the way you use your voice, the way I sped up, the way that I emphasized certain words, right? That's how you would probably tell a story to anyone that you're talking to in your day-to-day life. So, what is an example of how you can do that in a speech? And I think the way that we do that in the speech, and I suppose this isn't totally an example, so feel free to direct me again if I'm not quite answering your question, Mary. But I think the way to bring that kind of element into a speech is once you've written your speech, what are the parts that you really want to emphasize? Find those moments that you really want to drive a point home, that you want to make sure the audience is with you, following along. And then in those moments, think, how can I use my voice to help make this point? In our day-to-day life, we don't really think about it, right? We just tell a story. So when we have to think about it, it can feel clunky. And that's why I think it's important to recognize both. In day to day life, pay attention to yourself, realize how you talk, and you'll find plenty of examples of how you use vocal variety. And when it comes to giving a speech, I think the best thing you can do is find the moments that are the most important and let those be the moments that you make a conscientious effort to share your message in a way that is louder, softer, slower, faster, a big pause, however it is that you think will be best. Does that answer the question?
That sure does answer the question. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Good.
I think I really engaged with your example, and I really liked how you broke down different elements of that example.
Well,
I think
thank
that
you.
is very helpful. So, and you started to bullet point it at the end, but what would be the takeaway you would give a listener in terms
Mm.
of vocal variety?
I think what I say, what I'm about to, it might sound kind of bold, what I'm about to say, but this is what I think of when I am writing a speech and trying to find those moments. As it is likely that you are already using vocal variety in your day to day life, when it comes to giving a speech, you already have a lot of things on your mind, right? You have your outline, the points you want to make, the other people, where you are on stage, looking at people. Vocal variety is extremely important. But I say find those moments, like I mentioned, that are really important to you, that you want to make a very conscientious and specific effort to use your voice to, like I said, drive a point home. And otherwise, wash your hands of it. Don't think about it. You've got a lot of other things on your mind. Not everybody is going to sound the same when they talk. The way that you speak, your cadence, your tone is enough for the majority of the speech. Talk like yourself. Vocal variety is extremely important, but when it comes to speech making, I think that or speech giving, it really is only crucial that you pinpoint certain moments. Otherwise, I think it becomes too big, too large, and people aren't engaged for that long. It's like a circus show, right? That
So
makes
you
sense.
can't be shouting at everybody for the whole speech to emphasize everything, in other
Right.
words.
Yes, what a wonderful way to put that succinctly. Yes, Mary. I think that's exactly it. You can't be shouting and emphatic about everything. That is equally as unengaging as somebody who's, like you said, Ferris Bueller's teacher.
Well, thanks for that takeaway. What would you say to a prospective member who is thinking about joining Toastmasters to learn about these elements like vocal variety?
I would say just do it. Just come to a meeting, and I think that will speak enough for itself. What's nice about the meetings, and I think what keeps people coming back, is that you get to practice, like we've talked about a lot. We have speech giving, and we have everyday talking. And being a member of a Toastmasters club is not just practicing formal speech giving, it is practicing your everyday talking as well. And it's just getting yourself comfortable with hearing your own voice, with actually paying attention to how you speak. And that self awareness, I think, goes miles into helping you become a better speaker in all aspects of life.
So true. I would agree with everything you said, Cate.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite part of the meeting?
Ooh, good question. You know what? For me, it is table topics. And for anyone who is not a Toastmaster listening to this, table topics is the part of the meeting where we get to practice our improvised speaking, or really how we speak day to day. And one person who's in charge of that section of the meeting will pose a question, maybe something creative. Sometimes we had a member, I don't know if you remember, Mary, we had a member who would bring Dear Abby columns and read out the question, and then that was your prompt, and your response would be the advice. And so you've got a minute or 2 minutes to come up with an off the top of your head response to a question. It's a very long way of saying that is essentially what table topics is, but that's my favorite because I think it's the best way to learn about your fellow club members, right? It's to get it, see what they think of when they're put on, asked a question. What is the first thing that pops into their mind, and how do they spend that minute answering? I think is one of the most fun parts of the meeting for sure for me.
I would agree with that. I don't know if I would have initially agreed with that when I walked in the
Mm,
door the first time, but now I find them to be a lot of fun.
hmm I
Yeah.
think I think for me that's that former theater kid part of me that it's like an improv exercise or something. I enjoy that kind of painful social situation.
It's really not painful. We don't torture you that much.
No, it just. And especially like Mary said, once you get used to it, it's great. And you volunteer, you don't have to do it, but once you do, you'll realize how fun it is. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, I learned to love it, and I really do love it now. I
Hmm.
I would agree with you. I think that also is one of my favorite parts of the meeting is the table topics.
Good. I'm glad I'm not alone.
We've been speaking with ORC Orators Cate Carney. Cate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this podcast and this project of yours, Mary. I really enjoyed it.
Great. I'm so glad. I'm the host and producer, Mary Mazurek, for ORC Orators Podcast. You can be a member of Toastmasters ORC Orators as well, and maybe even be on this podcast. We meet virtually every first and third Thursday at noon Central Time. So become a member of ORC Orators or any other Toastmasters club by visiting toastmasters.org. That's TOASTMASTERS.org and click on join/visit a club. Thank you all for joining us today.